Next, module 4, implement virtual networking. So in this module, there are 6 tasks. So we are going to see the task 1, create and configure a virtual network. Okay, sign into the Azure portal. And search for virtual networks. And create virtual network. Click on create. Select the subscription that you have and create resource group. You can choose if you have any existing resource group. I'm going to create the new resource group, AZ-104 RG1. And the name AZ-104 04-VNet1. So I'm going to use the default region. Next, IP address. Enter the IPv4 address space. I'm going to give 10.40.0.0/20 and create the subnet. Subnet name, I'm going to give subnet 0 and the address range 10.40.0.0/24. Leave the other option default and click on add. Next, review and create. Okay, click on create. Let's wait for the virtual network to be created. Okay, so the VNet has been created. Click go to resource. In the settings section, click on subnets. So there is one subnet, subnet 0, and I'm going to create one more subnet, subnet 1, with the subnet address range 10.40.1.0/24, and leave the other option default and click on save. So subnet 1 has been created. Next, we'll deploy a virtual machine into this virtual network. So I'm going to deploy virtual machine using the PowerShell. So click on Azure Cloud Shell. Use any existing resource group. And provide unique storage account name and the file share. Let's wait for the storage to be created. And meanwhile, I'm going to use the template.json and parameter.json to create the virtual machine. So I'm going to download the JSON file from the GitHub. So you can just download it here. Just extract it. All files, labs, module 4, template.json and parameter.json. Okay, make sure select PowerShell. Okay, now I'm in the Azure PowerShell. I'm going to upload the template.json and parameter. All files, labs, module 4, templates. You may have to do it one by one. Upload failure. I think there is something wrong in the storage account that I have created. Let me delete and create the new one. Okay, so I have deleted the storage account. Go to the Azure Cloud Shell. Okay, show advanced. So this shows Cloud Shell. Okay, let me log out and sign in back. I have logged in back. Let me create a new storage account. Show advanced. I'm going to create a new resource group. And file share. Click create storage. Okay, I'm going to upload module 4 template.json and parameters.json. Okay, so using this JSON, I'm going to deploy to virtual machine. RG name equal AZ-104-04-RG1 to deploy the VM, use the following command: new AZ resource group deployment, resource group name, and template file. AZ-104 VMs loop dash template.json and template parameter file. Parameters.json. So we can also use the Azure CLI command to create the virtual machine. So let's wait for the deployment to complete before proceeding to the next task. So it should take about 2 minutes. So let's wait. And after that, in the next task, we will see how to configure the private and public IP address of the Azure VMs. So the VM deployment has been completed. So VM count 2. This as mentioned in the ARM template. Close the PowerShell. And you can go to the virtual machine. So now we are seeing 2 virtual machines. Okay, so in the next task, we are going to configure static assignment of public and private IP address assigned to network interface of virtual machine. Okay, go to the resource group, and the resource group that we have just created, RG1, and select the VNet one. So under settings section, click on connected device. So we see there are 2 interface, NIC0 and NIC1. Let's open the NIC0. And also the NIC0 created from subnet 0, NIC1 created from subnet 1. Click the NIC0 and the settings section, click on IP configurations. Okay, so the IP config 1 primary IP. So we can see that it shows dynamic. So that means it's assigned by the DHCP. Okay, click on IP config 1. So in the public IP address settings, select associate and create a new public IP, AZ-104 -04 PIP 0 and select this queue as standard and click OK. And we can also change the private IP address setting from dynamic to static and save the changes. Save to network interface. Okay, so the changes have been applied. Now go back to the VNet 1 blade and click on NIC 1. So we are going to do the same configuration for NIC 1. Go to IP configurations under settings and select ipconfig 1. So click associate for the public IP address and create new PIP AZ-104 PIP1 and change the SKU to standard. Click OK and assignment, make it a static IP and click on save. So wait for these changes to be applied and next proceed to the next step. Okay, so the changes have been saved. Okay, now you see there is a public IP address and the private IP address has been changed to static. Similarly for NIC 1 IP configurations, private IP address and the public IP address. So next, task 4, configure network security groups. So in this task, we are going to configure the network security group in order to allow for restricted connectivity to Azure virtual machines. So go to the resource group, RG1 and VM0. So click on connect, select RDP, download the RDP file. Okay, let's try to connect to this virtual machine using RDP. So it is failed. This is expected because the public IP address of the standard queue by default will be denied. So we need to allow it from the network security group. Okay, next search for network security group. Click create. Select the resource group and the NSG name is AZ-104 NSG01. Leave the region as the default. Click on review and create. Validation passed. Click create. So it should take about 2 minutes. Let's wait to create this NSG. Okay, so the NSG deployment has been completed. Go to resource. So under settings section, you will see inbound security rules, and I'm going to add new security rule. Source any, source port ranges, destination, and the service I'm going to choose RDP. Action allow, priority 300, port name, allow RDP inbound, click add. It's creating the new rule. Okay, so the inbound rule has been created. So click on network interfaces. So I'm going to associate the two NIC belongs to the two VMs that we have created. NIC 0, click OK. And associate the NIC 1, click OK. It may take few minutes to apply these changes. Now we can go back to the virtual machine. Click on VM0. Download RTP file. Click connect. Okay, it is still failing. Let's wait for few minutes to get this changes applied. Okay, let me try now. Download RDP file. Click on connect. Okay, so now it's asked for the username and password. So the username would be student and the default password. Okay, so now we have successfully RDP into the VM that we have created after applying the NSG, and we have allowed RDP port number 3389. So next task 5, configure Azure DNS for internal name resolution. I'm just closing this RDP.